This is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage,
I'm Nancy Richards and Guillermo.
and it's been a while. We haven't put up an episode for a while. We've both been
It's
a little
been a
bit busy.
week.
Yeah, we've been busy.
Yeah, has. I
Mhm.
went to go look at, places where I'm going to die. And so I went down in Delaware. That's all I think about now is where am I going to go and die? You know, the final stage, you know. You're my last dog, Guillermo. That's it. Are you my last dog? Hmm? Because you're pretty young.
I
By the
mean,
time you're
that
like
could be a
14, I'll be in my 70s. You never know how long you last in this Trump administration. So
well. I like to think one of the things that lasts forever is you, Nancy.
thank you.
Hmm.
But things, good things must come to an end.
Hmm.
But no, I'm not dying, folks. I'm just, I'm retired. So, I don't want to move many times. So the next time will be the last time, probably. So we're looking for places to retire to. And Florida is not one of them for me. So
Well, Nazi Germany with palm trees,
yeah, I
essentially.
don't want to live there though. It's too flat and red.
Yeah.
Yes. It's funny because I look over at there's a place called, uh, oh, what's it called? I'm going to forget it. It's the one that's in the middle of Florida, and it's like all the old people would get like syphilis and stuff like that. There's a lot of fun people having sex and dancing, but they're all MAGA. The Villages, that's what it's called. The
Villages.
Villages.
And that sounds perfect for,
Yeah.
for that kind of thing. MAGA people having sex and dancing and everything else.
Yeah, but there's like no
The, the
diversity.
Villages.
Yeah.
It's like a
So
Netflix
I'm like, this
docu-series.
looks fun. I'm like, no, no, you're not doing that.
It's like a Netflix docu-series, The Villages.
It's like hedonism. So like a bad hedonism. So somebody's like, there are some liberals here. And I'm like, yeah, but you must eat them alive. Keep them down. So
Yeah. Well,
um
yeah, absolutely. And, there's no shortage of stuff to talk about since we've been on the last time.
absolutely. So within a week we've had a lot happening. So
Yeah. Well, actually, right after we recorded our last episode, the DNC came out with their autopsy of 2024, which I read a little bit. I read a little bit, and the things that um, were most noticeable were what was not there in addition to what was there. So there was no mention at all of Biden's age, no mention of the loss of support related to what was happening in Gaza. And there was no mention of there was no mention of inflation at all. And, just the fact that Democrats essentially didn't message well, which, yeah, we know that. But
that's true.
mhm.
Once again, Democrats are afraid to touch touchy subjects. So though Jill Biden did talk about her husband,
Oh, I know.
but
I'm
that's a
just,
different thing.
I know.
But
I wish she would just be quiet. Like this is like, as I have a lot of respect for Jill Biden for a lot of reasons, but
yeah,
Madam First Lady,
I lived
shut,
in their state this
yeah,
weekend.
yeah, Madam First Lady, shut the fuck up, please.
Yes,
Please be quiet. This
yeah.
is not the time to talk about this.
Dr. Jill, please be quiet. But it's Democrats just I don't, I really don't want to sit here and hash out what things they didn't do. I just want to hash out what they want to do.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. I would say, one of the things that I read it a little bit and I made my own annotations, so to speak, when I was
Hmm.
reading through it. One of the things that stood out, was that they highlighted was these state officials who won and what they did in their states, and perhaps that could be replicated. There was one, Alyssa Slotkin in Michigan. She had a strategy called losing better, which I was like, well, this is kind of a weird name for it, but
Hmm.
I'll bite. And so she went to areas of Michigan that were known to be very red And she still lost those areas, but she didn't lose them by much, and it was enough to carry her into the
As
Senate
opposed to
seat.
like,
Yeah,
people who don't go into areas because they know they're not going to
yeah,
win.
yeah.
Which I'm glad she did that. I disagree with that analogy. I think you should go into certain places. I think if you hire good political strategists, they will know what to do when you go into certain areas.
Oh yeah.
Like if Mondami came into certain parts of Staten Island, um, I think there's certain areas that he could definitely reach, um, but sometimes people just don't bother because,
Well, they know that either they'll be received, not
with
well or whatever.
losing lightly,
Losing better.
losing better.
Which I was
I
like,
like losing lightly.
I wish they had a different name for it.
Losing lightly.
Yeah, losing lightly. That sounds like a diet.
Yes, it does. It's kind of like a diet. You get rid of Republicans, get rid of Republican
Shedding
votes,
Republicans.
shedding Republican votes.
Yes.
So, well, that's a good strategy.
And then they also highlighted Josh Stein, who actually became the governor of North Carolina in the 24 cycle, despite the fact, the Democrats by and large lost that election. He won that election. And, he said, they basically said, well, he focused on,
He
he
wants.
wants to come over to me.
Yep.
Okay. Uh,
Alrighty.
they said that his focus on economic issues, uh, you know, as opposed to wading into some of the cultural battles helped. And that was part of what helped him to become governor of a state that Donald Trump won in that same cycle. And so I think the DNC, though, just in how they wanted to roll this out, of course, bungled this horribly because he wanted Ken Martin, who's the chair of the DNC, he's been hemming and hawing about whether to release the report for some time now. And he said he didn't want to release it at first. And even when they did release it, there was a disclaimer there that basically said, doesn't reflect all of our views of what happened and blah, blah, blah. And then there's all kinds of annotations there that say, there's no sourcing for this and there's a blah, 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 blah. But he bungled it. I think he should have released this weeks ago. And okay, so you maybe have a bad day in the news cycle, but then, Trump does something crazy and then it moves back to
Everybody,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
And so like what's the real harm?
Use the Trump playbook in essence of, just brush it off like, oh, nothing's wrong,
Mhm.
and then, and then Trump will do something crazy where we'll forget what just happened. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I'm hoping, despite the fact that Jill Biden is out there rehashing a lot of this stuff for her book, I'm hoping that, we're kind of looking forward, not backward, not saying that we shouldn't acknowledge and do better where we can. But I think, when I heard that they weren't releasing the report right away, I said, well, you know, I would be helpful to read it, and they should release it for the people in the party and the voters and their delegates and all their party officials. They should absolutely release it. But I also felt like, well, we've kind of chewed over this for a while now. I don't know, what hasn't been said yet.
Yeah, I agree. Like what in the that's the autopsy. So where's the report of what we're going to do to win elections? What's the
Hmm.
strategy to win elections? Did you see any of that?
I was reading it at work during my prep period. When right before as I was grading, I was making my little notes there, and what I did notice is, you know, they blame a lot of external factors. They blame the media environment, which, is rife with disinformation, which is true. But are, they're also, saying that Republican ad spending made a difference, which I'm sure it did. But there wasn't the only things that I would say, that touched upon like what to do going forward are like those state officials that we highlighted earlier. Like that's what, here's what they did, and perhaps it could work in other places too.
Hmm.
And they also said that one thing I read in the report that was really interesting and I happen to agree with is that Democrats have relied for, the past decade or so, they've relied on Republicans nominating these awful candidates to get over the finish line. and which is true. As I think about,
You let him down now.
oh,
Now
okay.
he's just becoming annoying.
I thought he was just trying to situate himself.
Maybe.
Um,
But
yeah, well, I think of like Carrie Lake in Arizona with Katie Hobbs.
mm,
And like, Katie Hobbs didn't want to debate her. And at the time I was like, oh, you should debate her. But then she was like, I don't want to give this lunatic a platform and blah, blah, blah. And even Josh Stein in North Carolina, he was running against an absolute lunatic, Mark Robinson. And so, the report said in the future that, we shouldn't always rely on them being crazy enough to give us support.
okay, but this whole campaign of mudslinging, like, because we're gonna have another round of it with the Texas primary,
Mm-hmm.
with Talarico
Mm-hmm.
um as the Democrat and Paxton who won, and they're already like making these things about how he's too um
Oh, that,
left for Texas. But
yeah, transgender and this and that. Yeah.
yeah, there was that, which I think he got shot down. Like, no, sorry, they because it's so, and there was something about him being a vegan that
Well, if that's all they got, I mean,
which I don't know how, I don't think that's true from what I heard from another radio host. Like, he's not a vegan, like, but you call it somebody a vegan in Cattle, Texas. I don't
Oh
know
yeah, that's that's
unless they're living in Austin, but
yeah, you're like a heretic there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of like stupid mudslinging, but Telerico, runs on ideas. And so I think that if the Democrats just need to have a set of, principles of what they run on. And sometimes you see an ad like, we're the party of unions,
Hmm.
we're the party of healthcare, we're the party of the 40-hour work week, we're the party of the higher minimum wage. We're going to continue, that's what we did, but what are we going to do with that? The thing we don't realize about like Lyndon Johnson, right, with the Great Society, a lot of this stuff he did wasn't new, it was just extended.
Yeah.
Like he took a lot of the Great New Deal stuff and made sure that it continued.
Yeah.
What do we have that's great, and then why don't we make sure that it continues, and maybe that could be the platform.
Yeah. And well, I would also say, just as I've said this before on this podcast, there's a few things that I would do, actually return to a regulated form of capitalism where oligarchs don't get to determine um, the rules of the game.
Good luck.
And I think that's one
That would
thing.
that would
Yeah,
be considered
yeah,
radical
yeah.
now.
Well, I don't think that's, I'm a free market person. I'm not a radical. I would say that I think, we should have regulated capitalism. And that oftentimes that doesn't even require new laws. We already have the laws. A lot of the times we just don't enforce them because these companies and these oligarchs are just too powerful and too rich to, really pursue it and make, an issue of it. But I think that's one way we could do it. And, tied into that is, reining in money in politics. That's another thing. I think that corrupts both parties in a lot of ways. I also think that, putting a lot more stock back into labor and into unions is really the way to go too. And not just, saying that, but also, passing things like the PRO Act, which would help and strengthen the worker's position in the workplace to negotiate and collectively bargain. Um, and I would also say, that just from a position of universal human rights, that's where we have to go. And I like the fact that, Talarico is not throwing trans people under the bus
No.
the way that people like Gavin Newsom unfortunately have, um, just because they think it'll benefit them politically. I think, universal human rights means human rights for everybody, and we have to pursue that. And and that doesn't mean we should be drawn into these stupid trans athlete debates and things like that. But we have to stand
Well,
firm on standing up for people.
yeah, so it's all about changing the direction of the conversation. When the trans athlete debates come up, there has to be a way to combat that debate and steer it back to universal human rights. People have a right
Yeah.
to,
Somebody else who I liked is really Tom Steyer, who ran in 2020 for president, and he's running for governor of California right now. He's not backing away from trans people at all. which I love. And I know he's running in California, which is different than maybe a national platform, but I think that's the way to go. And I think because I think when we waffle and stuff too, I think people view
Don't
that as
like that
weakness.
weakness.
Bill Clinton used to say people like strong and wrong rather than weak and right.
Yes, they do. Well, absolutely. They elected Paxton and he was,
He's
you
a
know,
criminal.
yeah.
He's a criminal, and he's impeached, and
I
he's
think
indicted.
there was something where they were trying to get where they won't allow the Democrats to use smug shot. So
Well, you know, it's still out there. Just because you say, don't use it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and it's out there. And he was actually Ken Paxton. I was really hoping for this outcome, and I was actually thinking maybe Democrats voted in that primary because they have different rules than we do here in New York. So I'm thinking maybe Democrats voted in mass in that primary for Paxton because it's the easier
I think you have to
candidate.
be an independent.
I thought the way that I thought it worked is like you could choose which primary you wanted to vote in. So I remember when Hillary and Obama were running against each other in '08 in Texas, a lot of people said, well, Hillary won Texas because the Republicans and right-leaning independents voted for her in that primary. And so I'm thinking they were thinking that Democrats voted en masse for Ken Paxton because that's definitely the better candidate to run against.
Okay. Well,
I don't think that I think MAGA is just that crazy. I think to vote for somebody like that. And actually, I had a really good
do you want to talk about this Paxton win right now?
yeah,
Okay. Um,
because Paxton actually, as we said earlier, he is 60 members of the Texas legislature voted for 60 members of the legislature in Texas voted for him to be impeached. He was ultimately acquitted in the Texas State Senate um, for taking, and then he was indicted for taking bribes. Uh, and he is in the middle right now of in the campaign, even though he's running a campaign, he's voting, he's in the middle of a very nasty divorce because of what his wife calls getting divorced on biblical grounds. And the biblical grounds is that he fucks everything that moves, despite being, in public, a Christian man of values and faith and all
oh,
that stuff.
people vote for him. This is interesting. People vote for him, and we seem to not have a problem in this country, especially Republicans, like you said, with wrong,
Criminals.
yeah, criminals. Like, hey, look at Staten Island. We didn't have a problem with that as well. So we elected a congressman who was indicted. So
Yeah, and it was interesting. I heard somewhere, I think it was the Bulwark, the left virtue signals, the right vice signals. Like we
it's a good.
we we virtue signal about how virtuous and good people we are. For them, the fact that Paxton's a criminal and awful makes them even more likely
But
to
other
vote for
people
him.
can't be.
No,
So no, other people can't be. Well, here's the thing: when Paxton won the primary, my first reaction was, well, Democrats going to take the Senate.
yeah,
Because I think Talarico has come out initially looking better than Paxton. Paxton might have been like, it might have been like a victory for Trump. He's like, well, I give the endorsement, that's why I won. But in the end, a lot of people aren't going to vote for that guy. And so I think Talarico has a better chance of winning Texas.
yeah. Well, one group that's definitely swung back, at least it seems in the polling towards Democrats in Texas, is Hispanic voters. Hispanic voters, by and large, go to Talarico over Paxton.
Yeah.
And
Well, good, because
yeah,
they probably realized, not to mention, I think in regards to how Republicans have handled, immigration, they probably a lot of conservative, Latinos wanted some sort of reform, but they probably didn't like the way that people were being treated. So that's just a different story. So that might have led them to Democrats. Also, the other losers in this Paxton race is the Republican Party because they're going to have to spend so much money in not just Texas, but in other
yeah,
places.
on
Um,
states that should be in the bag,
yeah,
for them. It's well, because I think we have a real shot in Texas, but I also think we have a good shot of Alaska. Mary Peltola has proven to be a really good candidate there. Iowa might actually get a Democratic governor.
Yeah, heard that.
Iowa. And that would be the first time that any Democrat there has won since Barack Obama. Um, and we also, I think, stand a pretty good chance in Ohio, not just the Senate race, but also the governor's race, because the governor candidate on the Republican side there is so unlikable, Vivek Ramaswamy. Um, and we also have really good candidates um, in North Carolina with Roy Cooper for the Senate as well. And so it's going to be interesting, but I do think we have a chance of winning back not just the House, but the Senate, and you can't redistrict an entire state.
Well, the
So
key is people have to come out to vote because remember, people come out to vote when they're angry. So, people need to be angry about what's happening in the country and they need to know the importance of voting in not just the presidential, but this election
everything,
and push and yeah.
dog
So
catcher, whatever.
yeah, so it's important. So as long as Democrats can get people out to vote and get that enthusiasm to realize the importance of going out there, then we're going to do well. But if we don't wow them, people will stay home. It's not that I think more people are going to vote Republican. I think more people are just going to stay home, and therefore Republicans win. Which I hope not. I really hope not. But Democrats are going to spend so much more money, and Republicans. This ad campaign is going to be really crazy in Texas.
Oh, billions, easy,
Yeah,
easy.
which is a shame because sorry guys. Yeah. Um, but we will see what happens with that. So what else? What other?
Well,
We have our own primary coming up,
we
June
do.
23rd.
We do. Ours is, as we've been saying, and I put on our social media, ours is something of a, they're calling it a ghost primary for the congressional race, at least, because we had two active candidates. Now there's only one, which is Mike DeSillis. And so absolutely get out there and vote for Mike DeSillis
All
for
right, the other
sure.
candidate is not running,
No, she's not.
so don't vote for her.
No,
So, and they can't take her off the ballot. And we've discussed the reasons why in a couple of episodes. But the thing is, Mike DeSillis is running. So if you're a Democrat, please come out to the primary and vote for Mike.
absolutely. Vote for Mike. And do we have, well, my state Senate district, no, we only have one Democrat,
We have
Alexis.
yes, and then you have the primary with Jessica for state senate as
Mhm.
well.
Omar
Omar.
Mohammed.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we have that as well. I saw a lawn sign for him uh yesterday.
I did too. I saw one on I think City Boulevard.
And then Jessica has commercials.
She does. I've
So I
seen
haven't seen the commercials, but a lot of other people have.
they're on, and when we say commercials, the nature of them has changed. Like we think of commercials we would see on like the local news. Actually, I've seen her commercials online, like for on YouTube ads. So I've seen those. My parents actually asked for a lawn sign for her a few days ago because they're in her district, or actually in her neighborhood. And so that primary is up and running. And then we also have a judge seat. I forgot about that. Well, I forgot which judgeship it was. And I think the Democratic candidate's name is Golden. The last name is Golden.
If you give me a second, I'll go get the voter guide.
Yeah, well, I could always look it up, but and then we also have races for state assembly for Charles Fall
Well, let me
and
put this down. So
yeah,
next week, well, next week I'm not going to be here unless we do it via satellite. We can do it. But let me put down voters for primary. So remember to do that for next week. So we can put down. All right. Well, Guillermo, um, and we can do that. The other thing I want to talk about is the shakeup at 60 Minutes this week.
yeah.
Now, I know that people have been talking about, since the takeover of 60 Minutes, but there's a few people that I saw every week, and now I can't believe Cecilia Vega was apparently fired, and Sharon Alfonsi, these are 60 Minutes correspondents, um, was reportedly fired as well, and one of the executive producers was replaced, and an executive editor was let go, and Bill Owens was not fired, but he resigned. So we have a little bit of a shakeup of 60 Minutes. So it's curious to see. Like do you watch 60 Minutes all the time, or?
Here and there.
I watch it religiously every Sunday, and it's curious to see how it's going to change.
Well,
But
I know how it's
well,
going
we
to
we
change.
know that
Yeah.
one incident so that they didn't
Yeah.
post the
The story about CCOT.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know how it's going to change. It's just going to be Pravda. It's going to be state TV. It's going to be propaganda because it's Larry Ellison and it's Barry Weiss who are behind all of this. And they have made clear through, many years that they want to, see a more right-leaning media, one that, she basically, Barry Weiss wants to get basically the administration's approval on every
Well,
story.
I'm curious to see that how this arc changes, because I watch 60 Minutes every week. I know the type of stories they report. I know what they do. I don't consider them like MSNBC. Like I watch MSNBC. There's a certain point of view that comes from that station, you know what I mean? Whereas I find that 60 Minutes is investigative reporting.
You
Um,
you still find them objective?
yes, not, but I'm curious to see how that's going to change, you know, once you have this shakeup right now. Now, I know that CCOT was like the beginning of it, but I still watched it and I still saw investigative reporting. And then occasionally, um, that you had that interview with Donald Trump. I think that was damaging to Donald Trump.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
that didn't make him look good.
no. So I'm curious to see the arc change, how it's going to look. And Seacock could be the beginning of it because it's very obvious the fact that they didn't release it. But in regards to the types of stories, I started to notice a little bit in like Tony DeCopel now, who's now the anchor for CBS. Um, I'm starting to notice in the language, and I loved him too. I'm like, oh,
Tony DeCopa,
yeah,
his
I
name is.
did.
Well, Tony DeCopa, I think, is the husband of Katie Tur, who is on MS Now. And
Yeah.
so, and he is, which I'm surprised because he's a sycophant. He is a sycophant. He did this story months back where he saluted Marco Rubio, which made me want to retch. And CBS, like CNN will be soon, like TikTok is going to be the algorithms are going to be juiced because it's all part of the Ellisons own all of
But
it.
when he was on in the mornings, CBS mornings with Gail and Nate, they like I found him to be extremely liberal and kind of he might he was like the not Elizabeth on The View. Who's the blonde on The View?
Sarah,
Sarah. Reminded me of like Sarah from The View, like in kind of the nice, Um, so I was surprised he took over that anchor. Like sometimes I feel like when he's reporting, like if he's realized like he sold his soul to the devil, like, hey, we're going to give you an anchorship, but you're going to have to do this.
well, I think that's part of it. I think, he's now just kind of a walking, talking stooge.
Yeah.
And, and they're not being quiet about this. I mean, he was at Pete Hegseth not long ago was asked a question he didn't like at the Pentagon from CNN, and he said, "Well, Larry Ellison can't take over this network soon enough." Those were his words. So this is what they want to happen. Donald Trump released around the time of the White House Correspondents' Dinner or whatever that was.
It'd be weird if CBS became like Fox and Fox became like CBS.
Well,
No.
Fox, well, I think it's all going to be just, one big, state TV monolith. But and Bernie Sanders, who I don't often sometimes agree with, he was right when he said this is what, corporate oligarchy looks like, because he listed all of the things that the Ellisons own. and it's all things that we use and things that we view and see our, not just news, but movies, Paramount, they own everything.
That's alarms. Like, I'm gonna say like 15, maybe even 20 years ago when I was teaching economics and I showed about we did like mergers and we did conglomerates and I posted media and like they were all pretty much, I mean, maybe it's a lot, the bubbles are a lot bigger as opposed to, but a lot of the conglomerates controlled a lot of aspects of different parts of media. Like, Disney at one point, like Disney was one of the big conglomerates. And now,
Well, that's true, but I think now what's different is that you have an administration who is willing to use and their power and their relationships to these oligarchs to enforce their will.
yeah, like, hey, we'll give you, you do us a favor and we'll give you,
We'll
you know,
approve your merger.
yeah,
We'll,
get rid of Stephen Colbert
yeah,
and
we'll
we'll
approve your
approve a
merger.
merger.
We'll approve your merger.
And I was surprised they let him go out the way he did.
Mhm.
There was no holds barred. Did you watch the closing of Colbert?
I don't stay up that late.
Oh, watch on you. I did. I stayed up.
Yeah, I don't stay up that
I
late.
did for that week. I purposely stayed up and watched. I did fall asleep here and there, but I tried my best. But it was good, and they had a lot of people on, a lot of support, and they made no secret about why this was happening. And I was like, "Oh, look at them, bold and brazen." But they were going out and they were burning,
Well, good thing though about this
taking prisoners.
The good thing, though, about this is that the citizenry seems to be responding the way they should to this because CBS is losing money at the wazoo. They are not profitable anymore because nobody's watching them. And that's how it should be. Like as
Yeah.
one of my favorite sayings is, I could think of a better way to be lied to for an hour. Those are people who are just gonna lie to me for however long.
Well, I'll be back. So here, Mom. Here, Mom. What do you want? Here you go. You have to go out. It's talking. I'm just.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's but yeah, I think that's part of the media strategy and it's taken a lot of different forms. Sometimes it's just kind of the brute force that we saw with Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert, but it's actually more subtle now with all these corporate mergers and this is definitely, as I said, an administration who will use their power in a regulatory way to silence critics and to
Well, they're doing it all over the place. They're
yeah.
doing it by, media. They're doing it by suing people. They're doing it by using the DOJ.
Oh yeah. Well, the DOJ, Todd Blanche, who is Donald Trump's failed personal defense attorney. And I say failed because he represented him in a case that Donald Trump got convicted of 34 felonies in. Uh, Todd Blanche,
He
uh,
wants that job.
well, he wants that job, but he's evidently pulling out all the stops to get it.
He is.
Um, and one of the ways seems to be, unless, even though they deny it now, going after a woman whom a civil jury determined that Donald Trump raped, E. Jean Carroll.
But you know what's interesting? They don't have anything substantial. You, I listen to Dan Abrams a lot, and he talks a lot like, and he's not like an anti-Trump person. But the things that the DOJ has been doing, I guess, as being the fact that his show is based on like a lot of law stuff, legal stuff, it's just outright criminal, and he's just so disgusted in how the DOJ is just openly doing Donald Trump's bidding. Um, and the whole thing with Carroll and going after Comey is they don't have anything on these people, and it's all been proven in like a jury, and you don't like the outcome, you know,
Well, he's already appealing that
that's
verdict.
but
Yeah.
it's not like it's a sham just because you don't like the way things went.
No, well, the specific things that, if it's true that they are investigating Eugene Carroll, because they are denying it now, at least the U.S. Attorney's Office in Illinois is, they are looking into the funding of her lawsuits against Donald Trump. She, just to recap for our listeners, because it's been a long decade, um, she sued Donald Trump when he was president the first time because after she accused him of doing what he, what a jury determined that he did, uh, he called her a liar. And so she sued him not only for the act itself, but for defaming her. And that was actually the smaller judgment. Then he went out when he went out again and defamed her again, and then she sued him again. And that lawsuit rendered a judgment of 80, almost $90 million to her, and which he's appealing now.
And I'm going to guarantee that he hasn't paid her.
No, well,
No.
he's still appealing.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the Supreme Court is going to have to decide, is raping a woman in a department store an official act? Like,
Well,
is that an
they
official
found
act?
that he the wording was they didn't find him guilty of rape, but they found him
Sexually abusing,
liable of that he could have raped her. There's a different wording in it.
adjudicated
But
rapist.
the fact of the matter is they're going after her because they said something she lied about her funding. But on appeal, they went through that process to realize that the judge said no, it's not something you can go after. It was like what she had said, that where she got her funding from or didn't get her funding from wasn't something where she was perjury. It was and so it was kicked out.
Because she didn't know about
And
it. Yeah.
so why are they bringing up charges about something that already went through the court systems? But here's the thing that gets me. Donald Trump, because this is this is, it's the DOJ is Donald Trump's arm as far as I'm concerned. What else are they doing for the country aside from what just Donald Trump needs to get done, and just to go after people that he doesn't like what happened or what they said to him? It's kind of like, getting your cousin to beat up,
Well, they're no longer. I know that the corruption office has been gutted. Unless you're a Democrat, then they'll come after you. But like, the corruption office has been gutted. They're no longer really pursuing organized crime, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Um, because that would mean going after themselves, essentially.
Yeah,
But they
or
are,
their buddies.
yeah. And so they're not doing much of anything other than being, the enforcers. And, Todd Blanche made Pam Bondi threw him under the bus today.
Who
She
Did
said,
you hear anything about the hearings because they weren't televised,
no.
or they were just transcripts?
Yeah, well, from what Democratic members of Congress said, was that she, of course, dodged everything, and she said that Todd Blanche was responsible for the redactions of the Epstein file. So she's throwing him under the bus.
Okay.
So they're all kind of, jumping off the Titanic as it's sinking, and so,
Everyone's letting them in the lifeboat.
yeah, and so she said Todd Blanche, if he screws up the Comey seashell case, and then he screws up this Carroll stuff, and then he screws up, and then, if the Epstein stuff sticks to him, then, he may lose out on that job to judge Box a line.
Yes. Oh, speaking of Epstein, here, hold Guillermo for a second. I have to show you what came in the mail yesterday.
Oh no, something from Epstein.
Yes, something from Epstein sent me something from the dead.
Guillermo's like squirming here. Now I'm interested. What's I'm intrigued now. For our listeners who are not watching, Nancy just disappeared because she got something mysterious in the mail.
It came in the mail.
Oh, oh, this is a title: "The Rise and Fall of House York"
The House of York.
by Andrew Lowney.
So I want to see, because remember they had reprinted these copies
And
because they took
these
something
include
out with the Trump. Yeah.
these include the DOJ
And it
stuff.
says includes sensational new material. So,
Oh, okay.
but there is a lot of Epstein in here. And look at that, a photograph of Andrew, Melania, and Donna. There
Well,
we
the
go.
interesting thing is Pam Bondi's deposition was not videotaped, but the Clintons were. And actually, I think the Clintons insisted on that, and they should have.
Well, what's interesting is these rings of people that are associated with in the wealthy. Um, so it's going to be an interesting read. My my issue was one of my guilty pleasures is the royal family. It
Oh,
was the way I connected with my mom. My mom and I like so I always thought Andrew was cute.
mhm.
So I always like be interested in their relationship. And now,
Now they're both scumbags.
yeah.
They're both.
So I'm really curious how they became scumbags. I mean, I know like he was connected with Epstein, but her, like, what did she do too?
Well,
So
I know as far, at least according to the files, what was released, she was asking him for money all the time,
yeah,
Epstein, and so she was really, she was in it.
I just think yeah, she was just a money hungry and needed money all the time. And then her assistant committed murder. It was like it's on a, made a TV show out of it. Well, anyhow, so that's the juicy book I got today entitled. And I forgot I pre-ordered it and it came in the mail. I was like, what did I get charged with? And I forgot all about this. It's one of those late night purchases when, like, what I want to buy this. So, yeah, here's the book. You want to see? See the book? Yes. Smells of Epstein. Yep, you're gonna eat it? You're gonna read it, not eat it. So, but yeah, so that was my new thing that came in.
Well,
What else do we know?
ICE has been out of the news over the last few months, ever since the killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, but
They're back.
they're back.
They're
They're back at Delaney Hall in New
is it
Jersey,
Newark?
and Newark, and that is an ICE detainment facility. And
Mhm.
so I was seeing the little drips and drabs on social media about what's happening, and so my understanding is that they are protesting, number one, the fact that the facility is there to begin with, but number two, the conditions inside are inhumane and cruel and unusual.
Right, and there's also people on a hunger strike,
Mhm.
which the ICE facility people are saying that that's not what's going on. So they're not they're suppressing information that's getting out there. So the people outside are causing a media stir to let them know what people are doing on the inside. And and in the meantime, they're trying to get representatives are trying to go in and examine and the Frankie Cheryl,
Mikey
Mikey
Sherman?
Cheryl, Mikey Cheryl, Mikey Cheryl. Mikey Cheryl tried to get in the governor of New Jersey and she was denied access.
Well, members of Congress got in because they have oversight, but
But they were only allowed in certain, they weren't allowed to see everything.
no.
They were not. So um and so it's limited to what they can actually see. So what are they hiding? And I just happened to see a video of someone interviewing an official outside and they were asked about the conditions and the guy would not respond. So it's like, so what is it true? Are there maggots? Are people being denied like food as a form of punishment for protesting?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Of course it is. Of
so
course it's all true. And the reason why it's all true is because we know with them, with the Trump administration, with the people who are around them, they believe that violence and force are a show of strength. The cruelty is the point. That's why they do it, for the cruelty for the sake of it, because they are,
usually people will just say, "Oh, fuck it, I'm gonna leave."
yeah,
Whether they have an entitlement to be here or not.
right.
And these are not criminals, folks. These are people who have been going through the system and who are being detained like prisoners. A congressman outside in the New Jersey one said, "Look, give people ankle monitors. Like, but they're not criminals. Like, if you set up a system where you can guarantee they come back for court hearings, but why are you detaining them
Oh,
in
you
the
mean due process?
so
Due process? Yeah.
well, if just yeah, well, the due process, but why are you detaining them? Why can't they be at home if they don't have a criminal record?
Well, absolutely, yeah. I
Ser
mean, yeah, and again, I think what's really good, and Rachel Maddow has covered this extensively, is that the people in the towns where these facilities are all over the country, they are basically, um, they are basically rising up to say we don't want these here. And actually, a piece of good news around immigration, Alligator Alcatraz is no more. That closed. That's done.
Oh, I did not hear
Yeah,
that.
that's done. It's
Why
done.
did it close?
Well, I think it was subject to court challenges and, just general incompetence, but it's no more,
Mm.
which is, I think, a
Oh, that's
sliver.
great.
That's a sliver of good news around this topic. And so we have folks who are at Delaney Hall right now. Father Hank O'Toole, Hank Toole is who has been on this podcast. He's at Delaney Hall right now,
Hmm.
protesting with people outside. And actually, we just got an alert before we went on that basically it said that because ICE agents were clashing with protesters, that ICE agents would no longer be monitoring the protests. And I think because they don't want the optics of, what happened with Renee Good and Alex Preddy.
Well, that's fine. So they did something smart.
Yeah.
So they went inside. Um, and we're trying to get someone to come on the show. Um,
Well, we're trying to get student organizers to come on our show to talk about because we did a few months ago have some student protests here around ICE, and in fact, there was a student protest today, but that was more of a general anti-Trump protest. I don't think there was a particular policy or theme, but it was just general, pro-democracy, that kind of thing. And so we're trying to get the leaders of those protests on Staten Island at the anti-ICE rallies. We're trying to get those from a few months ago on maybe next week.
we'll so and if you're listening, give us a DM for that if you want to.
Yes, well, if you're one of the lead, I'm speaking to one of the organizers from one of the high schools, but if you are one of the other rally leaders, because there were three from three schools that I know
Mhm.
of, and so if you're one of the other two, definitely give us a DM because we would definitely love to speak to everybody who has organized something like that locally. Locally.
I was trying to reach out to the people with the flotilla for Cuba. They're organizing another flotilla,
Hmm.
and I outreached, but I got an automated response for like help with the flotilla. So that didn't work as I drink my Cuban rum. Um, but so I would like to get somebody on from there and see what's going on with going with Cuba. Um, and if anyone's listening, please give us a shout. But otherwise,
And we do have some news on the slush fund, uh, the Trump slush fund that we've been talking about over the last few episodes. So right before we got on to when we came on to record, this is Friday night. A federal judge basically reopened Trump's case against himself, essentially, because she was suspicious about the motives here. She basically said, well, something's rotten here because, this doesn't seem adversarial the way that a normal case is. And so she demanded
what's
briefs.
normal about it?
Yeah.
You're suing yourself?
Yeah, they're suing a government that you control. And so she kind of sniffed that out and said, okay, well, hear it out, but I want briefs from each side to state your case. And so
If you get a brief from each side when it's the same
the same
side.
same person.
Yeah.
Um, and so they just reopened the case, and so this puts a pause, I think, on the slush fund for now. And that's not the only legal action that's being brought against it. Harry Dunn from the Capitol Police is also suing to stop it. And members of Congress are also pushing back as well, even Republicans.
Well, we're going to see with the Republicans that lost their primaries, how they're going to respond in Congress now that they're not going to, they have
They are
they're lame
chained.
ducks. Yeah, they're lame.
They're unchained.
Well, I'm not going to, maybe some votes, but they're still Republicans, but we'll see what happens. But
Oh,
they are lame ducks. So,
I think Thomas Massey's gonna fuck everybody's shit up
well, good. I hope he
before
does.
he leaves. And I also think, even though I called him a pussy last week, I think Bill Cassidy might too, because he's already tried capitulating to them by voting for that lunatic RFK Jr. To be HHS secretary, and that didn't work.
We will see.
And John Cornyn just lost to Ken Paxton,
Yeah,
and
so we'll see
so
what they do.
yeah. but there's been, significant pushback on this idea of this slush fund, not only in the courts but in Congress.
But the thing that just pisses me off is all this bullshit of what we're fighting on. But in the meantime, gas last weekend reached its high, then all-time high. So gas is expensive. Inflation rates are going up. And Donald Trump publicly said, I don't care about gas prices. I only care about Iran. And what's funny is he's fighting for deals that were already in the Obama deal.
In the JCPOA, yeah.
So I'm just surprised that I don't understand. Maybe because it's MAGA that I guess they are. Are they that much cult followers? Like, why would you vote for someone he endorses when he's got nothing done? Like, what has Donald Trump done for America? Like, he's closed the borders, which I can see them liking that, but he hasn't done anything for them.
Well, I don't think the cultists will ever get, but I think
But the thing is, the cult what loved him because they thought he would. Are they just white supremacists? Is this MAGA white supremacists?
well, he definitely hates the same people they hate. And
Yeah.
that's really what it is. It's a violent personality cult that protects pedophiles, that makes things more expensive, that has overall just ruined our standing in the world and just our reputation, and just has ruined the entire country. And they've not kept their promises. And like I said, I don't think the cult will ever get back. But I do think those folks who, broke for Trump over Kamala in the last election, I think those have largely swung back, at least according to the polling. We saw that in the Talarico polling too. Younger people, Latinos, independents are swinging towards Democrats, at least in the midterms. And so I think we can get those back, and I think we could build a broader coalition. Definitely there, but I think the important thing is uh, just, he is playing the fiddle and he's building his arch and he's having his UFC fight, which I mean, the White House looks like a fucking trailer park now.
Hmm.
And
Oh my God.
it's it,
It
loo-
does.
it looks like a trailer park. It's and then he's gonna have this for America's 250th anniversary. He's having this white trash debutante ball with acts from 30 years ago as the
That
headlines that have dropped out.
that refused to play. So, Brett Michaels is saying no.
Millie,
I don't want to trash Brett Michaels, but
Millie
Millie
Vanilli
Vanilli,
said no.
the only the Millie, then the Vanilli's not there anymore.
Well, and also, takes a lot if Millie Vanilli is ashamed after being caught, basically being a fraud and having to give their Grammys back. If they're ashamed of you,
Yeah, really.
that's
They're not even, and they're fake.
yeah.
So
So if they are saying, sorry, this is
they're
no, we
not.
can't
They're
do
backing
this.
out. So like the only act he has is
Vanilla Ice, he's got.
no, he backed out. Vanilla
No,
Ice.
he didn't back out.
Vanilla Ice didn't. Oh no.
No, he didn't back out. It was Martina McBride. She was supposed to go. She backed out.
Okay.
And then Courier News had a list, a pretty comprehensive list of the people who were backing out.
When I
But
looked at the Times, Vanilla Ice's name was in the article. So
yeah, he as one of the people who dropped out.
yeah, I thought so. I'll have to retake a look. But
Yes,
still,
well,
look what he
Vanilla Ice
didn't he perform at the
inauguration, maybe.
New Year's Eve party they had? Remember they had pictures of um they were all dancing to Ice Baby.
Yes, yes, yeah, I remember that. And that incel Stephen Miller was
Kind
dancing
of,
to it.
yeah.
And then so we have, yeah, Vanilla Ice is still on. Martina McBride, she dropped out. Young MC dropped out. Morris Day and the Time dropped out. As we said, Millie Vanilli dropped out.
Hmm.
Brett Michaels dropped out. The Commodores, another act from 50 years ago,
Right.
dropped
Oh,
out.
well,
Um,
they're a good group though.
oh yeah, CC Music Factory. But anybody
That was
who's
good. Did they? Oh,
and
nope.
Florida, he's the only one who's kind of, of today's ilk, and so he's still there, but nobody else is.
Who's entertaining for the fighter thing, just the fighters? I heard that they're asking like US soldiers to come and wear their uniforms, but only if they're fit. So
Well, and that's from Donald Trump, who we know is just a paradigm of health and fitness,
he
both
is,
both cognitively and physically.
yes.
Even though he's got chlamydia rashes on his neck and hand pay and
He's
hand
got so
makeup
much makeup on his hands, so
and he's incontinent and shits his pants
and
probably.
diapers
Yeah.
and his knees are going and his feet are swelling
No, but he
and he's
only wants the best. He only wants the most physically fit.
yes. And and he just had his exam the other day and he had the best exam. The doctor said he was in the best shape. It's like you're friggin' 80, okay?
Well, for somebody who's so healthy, he often brags about passing the basic minimum cognitive
Cognitive
ability
test,
tests.
yes.
And so, which, if you're that cognitively healthy, you don't often need to say it.
And no, and he definitely knows how to sleep though. He definitely knows how to nap. We've seen him he does that well.
Well, he doesn't sleep at night. He shit posts all night. Now, but he sleeps during press conferences.
He's very upset. Now, I can't wait for his posts about them. They had to take down the Trump name from the Kennedy Center. That is like, yeah, like thank God. Like, how do you do that? Like, he's just so vain. And they were showing the new plans for the Penn Station, and there was a space there for like, Trump's name over Penn Station. Because that's the only way he's gonna give the money is if if they put some sort of tribute to him.
Well, and he also wants his face on a $250 bill. And
Yes.
so,
I heard a good joke today on one of the podcasts that if you it was Trevor Noah was saying, he goes, well, if you like inflation,
why would
because
you?
he goes,
Pretty soon
have you
you'll
heard
need
of
it. Yeah.
Zimbabwe? He goes, when your country starts using much higher dollar bills, it's called inflation. So he goes, have you heard of Zimbabwe? And so it just thought that was good. And that's really what that means. Because if we're breaking out our 250s, then our money doesn't count for anything. Please no, I don't want that to be the way it is.
No. Well, listen,
Enough to live.
we're celebrating small victories here. Like, so now he's according because the judge struck it down, and the judge, who struck down the Kennedy Center thing actually had a pretty basic point, kind of civics and government 101. Congress passed this law, and in that law it said only Congress can change the name of the Kennedy Center. And so, it can't just be, because you wave your hand one day or write in a Sharpie that it's yours. That's not how this works.
Well,
And so it seemed like he was kind of exasperated and he wasn't going to pursue it.
Trump doesn't like the way the government is set up. He just wants to run things the way he wants to run things. And, that's a dictatorship. So,
Yes, it is.
and I think, that he doesn't see anything wrong with that. He doesn't see anything wrong with that. And his MAGA people don't see anything wrong with that. Um, and what he's doing with the Department of Justice, he's attacking people who have publicly shamed him, rightfully so. And even people like, well, Biden administration, their department. I was like, no, Garland didn't go after
No,
people.
I think he should have.
And the only time he did go after Trump was with the files. That's when that whole thing started because they had a subpoena to collect the classified ads. And
Well, he actually in that case, Garland treated him with kid gloves
yeah,
because he gave him how many chances to give those things back, and he didn't. And actually, his lawyer lied to the Justice
yeah,
Department and said that he had given them back when in fact he hadn't. And then they go there and they're in his fucking gold bathroom.
yes.
And so, and then he also
And then
charged him.
Nadia was so upset. You broke into my house and got.
Oh,
It's
and
only
what
the
did they
first time I
see?
ever saw her show emotion.
What did they, why is she upset that they saw her bedroom ceiling mirror? Like, I
Maybe
mean, like,
for her poll.
like, and that, and they also charged him related to January 6th. And, but in those cases, there were evidence of crimes.
Yeah.
There were
So the
evidence of
problem is
crimes.
you may not like the outcomes, but there was crime. Now, Dan Abrams said something where he thought that Tish James going after him was not that he didn't commit the crimes, but politically didn't think it was a good move. Um, uh, so because even though like people, but it doesn't mean he didn't do it.
No. Well, of course he did, and he did, and I think the reason why he's so still bent out of shape over Tish James's, victory, and that was a civil thing, that wasn't a criminal thing, was that one,
He
it
got,
showed at the time that he wasn't as rich as he always said he was,
yeah.
and that was really it, and he still hasn't paid that restitution because it's still tied up
Well,
in
he doesn't
litigation.
pay anybody.
No,
That's what he does.
yeah,
So, he like his taxes and that's the other thing. Like the whole thing about what he's just gonna is that really gonna go through? Like the IRS is never gonna audit that
oh,
family.
yeah. Well, who knows? Because we just saw the case just got opened back up, so we
So,
don't. We it could never go through, and by the time the litigation around this happens, he could be out of office, God willing. And
oh,
yeah.
God willing, yes. So we will see. And speaking of office, you said something that JD Vance
Oh
may not be
yes.
running,
Well, JD
or
Van.
not really is enthused to run.
Well, no, because he's sort of isolated now in the cabinet because number one, he's just a terrible communicator.
Yes.
He's a terrible communicator. That's been obvious from day one. But number two, he's more of an isolationist as far as foreign policy, and he's been very vocal about his opposition, at least within the administration, to the Iran war, among other things. And now with Tulsi Gabbard gone as DNI, he has nobody else that's kind of a non-interventionist the way that he is. And so he's been outnumbered, and Marco is
Little
sort of
Marco is
little
gonna
Marco's stock is rising, and his is fallen. And
is gonna go over and grab Cuba for his mother and father.
yeah,
And who are they gonna put in power?
maybe Marco. Maybe Marco. Marco does every other fucking job.
They'll turn on the lights if we hold the elections. So, and who we were gonna get to run. So I
And yeah, and so, but JD is thinking about abandoning a 2028 run because of that. And JD Vance is learning what Mike Pence learned. He is learning what everybody who comes into close contact with Donald Trump learns, and what Nicole Maliotakis will eventually learn herself. That uh, everything he touches dies. He ruins everybody around him, and he is the only one that doesn't come out with any kind of scratch on him. He comes out sort of Teflon Don.
yeah,
Everybody
definitely
else,
very Teflon.
everybody else is ruined.
I look forward to the day he's behind bars.
Well, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think he's just too old. I think what's going to happen? The best case scenario is, he slips out. Kara Swisher was saying this the other day. He slips out of office when he's done, and he dies shortly after, and dies in disgrace the way that Joseph McCarthy did, the way that Richard Nixon did, the way that his one of his mentors, Roy Cohn, did. And
Nixon, I
so
think, had some saving graces.
yeah. Oh, I know, but they were all those people I just mentioned were
Yeah,
mostly irredeemable. So, but I think that's the best case scenario.
we will see.
Yeah.
But things are not looking up. I mean, things are just more expensive. Gas is, you said this last week.
Yeah. And
Gas is 4.59 a gallon. Just to remind everyone, 4.59. So that's a lot of money. My electricity is more every month. My water bill is more every month. My groceries are up more. And even with sales, like what was I looking at today that was on sale for 4.49? And I was like, that's the sale price. Remember it was like $1.99. I forgot what it was. Um, oh, it was chicken.
what was what
I'm
was the
used to
price of it
like
now?
so it was 4.99 and that was the sale price.
Yeah.
And chicken usually I get for 2.99. And and I was just like people like on sale. And I'm like, no, that's that's still more expensive than it was 2 years ago. So prices have gone up, things are up, travel is up, me. And I went to a different state this month to look at tax wise. um I just I'm turned 62 this week, so I gonna start collecting.
Happy
Yeah,
birthday,
happy
Nancy.
birthday. And I'm gonna collect because I'm just afraid that they're gonna use it before I turn 67, so I'm collecting early.
Yeah, those people are going to loot it for sure.
Mhm.
Or they're going to try, at least. Hopefully, we win the midterms and we stop them in their tracks, at least somewhat.
Mm.
And, the one thing I will say too, just, and I'm sure JD Vance's eyeliner is getting more expensive. I'm sure
It is.
that's probably factoring into his
Makeup is
decision.
expensive.
Yeah, it is. And, even though he doesn't like drag, he does love his eyeliner. Um, and the one thing I will say as a way to win the midterms for the Senate, and I say it every episode, Chuck, you have to step down.
He does.
Chuck Schumer, you must step down.
Would run a senator.
Well, he could stay until 2028 as senator from New York.
Oh,
When I say step down, I
oh,
mean step down now as leader.
leader.
Yeah, step down now as the leader. That's a different conversation who's going to be senator in New York. But I think there's plenty of more suited people to run Senate Democrats than Chuck Schumer.
Okay. So step down, Chunk.
Hmm.
Step down. All right. On that note,
This is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage.
Nancy Richards, and we will see you next week.